Hello, my name is Teal-Spicer and I am the art director on 2021 feature film Beat. Working within the art department basically means I'm taking the nitty-gritty of real life and adapting it for the screen and making fake stuff look real. When thinking about making a film, I'm thinking a lot about objects, shapes, colors, textures, lighting, and just basically what would make the screen look more visually interesting for the audience. In terms of my role on Beat, I had a bit of an amalgamated role between production designer and art director as I worked from pre-production all the way through to actual production and filming on set. So in the beginning, the first thing that happens is I receive a script, and once I get that, I break it down. So I'm basically combing through the entire script looking for things that are relevant. So I'm looking for props, I'm looking for graphics, I'm looking for stunts, food and drink, extras, costume. In particular, I'm looking at sets. And I'm looking at those locations, thinking about the time of day at that location, whether it's night or day, in terms of lighting, is it dark or light? I'm looking at how many locations are required, so where am I going, where all these things needed to be. I'm also thinking about, in terms of how the writer has described it, so is it raining that day? Do I need to think about a wet down? Do I need to get a rig if it needs to be physically raining on a day that it might not be raining? So I'm thinking about all those things when breaking down the script, and I'm highlighting it. So once that's all together, I move on to a budget. So in the budget, once I have that list and I'm able to put it all together, I'm able to break it down into individual scenes of what props, what graphics, whatever will be needed for that scene. I'm able to work out a few internet resources where I'd be able to find them, how much they'd cost to rent versus buy, different ways that I can get a hold of it. Through Facebook Marketplace is a really great resource for that because people just wanted to get rid of stuff. So I'm basically putting it all together in this big old list, working out roughly how much it will cost, give or take, and then submitting it to the director to sort out funding. Funding's all sorted, I move on to concept art. Concept art is basically taking everything I saw in my head while reading the script, taking the director's notes into account and coming up with artwork that is what we hope it will look like. So that's taking into account dressing, costume, the actors, anything that will be required, graphics, and putting it into this artwork. I think for Beat, I made roughly around 170 different concept arts for the film. Once the pre-production side of creating concept art and we know what we want it looks like, I move on to my least favorite part of the production, which is prop sourcing. And I hate prop sourcing because it means my apartment looks like this and my car looks like this. Whilst prop sourcing, I'm also creating graphics. Graphics are basically the things that you take for granted. It's things like menus at a cafe, bottle labels, medication pill bottle labels, family photos, bills, posters, name tags, hospital charts, and so on. For Beat, I created over 200 different individual graphic pieces that are scattered throughout the entire film. It was a little tight for Beat. It meant that I did end up using a lot of my own personal photos throughout filming. So both of my parents' high school photos are used as musicians in the back of Ellie's bedroom on her walls. My sister's on a magazine cover. It's all sorts of things. My holiday photos are tourism adverts. I also like to include little nods to the plot and the crew through the set and props. So, for example, authors on book covers, we have a Dr. J. Curry as a nod to our lovely director Jai, and we also have a Dr. B. Waddy as Bailey, who is our cinematographer. So they're throughout the movie as well. There's also other nods to the fact that Ellie, the lead character, had a heart transplant, which is this huge part of her story. Cool little hearts throughout the entire movie through props and costumes, on book covers, in the lamp beside her bed, as this ongoing reminder. Also a photo of Dr. Victor Chang, who's this famous heart surgeon. He is one of the authors on the back of a book beside her bed as another little nod to hearts. Paperwork and bills, I got to have a little bit of fun with naming characters. So in terms of Susan and Ellie, they didn't have a last name, so I put Golpe, which is Spanish for hit, or Beat, which is the name of the film. So the homeless alley was one of the more difficult locations because we had a bit of challenge getting the actual location locked in. So we ended up filming in an alleyway, which was right next to a train station with this beautiful archway. So it turned out perfect in the end. It was more challenging because this tunnel turned out to be a wind tunnel. So I was constantly battling with wind in terms of keeping certain props in the right places for continuity. So I was filling up rubbish bags, grubbying it up as much as possible. I think I even used the crew rubbish bag, sprinkling it out throughout the set, dirtying things up, wetting things to make it look disgusting. The birds certainly helped us by they were roosting above us in the archway and they were raining down bird poo on us, making a more disgusting, authentic edge, which was gross. So in terms of the key props for the alleyway location, it was a trolley in which the homeless character keeps speakers and his keyboard. So he transports those around to different sets throughout the film. With the trolley, I would keep it up against the wall and then I would build all the rubbish up around him. So it looked like he was in a bit of a crater of rubbish, which I thought was a nice little homage to like music is his saving grace because he's surrounded by darkness, but he's got this one little light thing in front of him that makes him happy. Another key location was Susan's home. Susan, when reading through the script, she's this very warm, very loving character, very generous, and so she's in a bit of a rough patch during the story. So I was thinking about how exactly she would cope in terms of what would her living situation be. Because in the script it was quite vague about different props around her, so it was much down to what I could find. So when actually prop sourcing, I was finding all these bits and bobs that were homey. So I was looking for pillows, blankets, pictures on the walls, photo frames to put family photos in of the actors. I was thinking about photo albums, fruit baskets, different mugs that look homey, like she would have got them somewhere down the track, and putting that all together, different dishes in the sink, and just making the apartment look lived in. So we were actually filming in this really nice hotel room, so it was a bit cruel to scruff it up and make it look like this rundown but still keeping up appearances apartment. Ellie's bedroom, that was a bit more tricky because I had to remove a double bed and put in a single bed. Cover her whole wall in posters and photos of her and her friends. I got the actress's permission to use a bunch of her photos, which was excellent, just to make this look really lived in with a history, visual history behind it. Other locations that we were filming were a bit more graphics heavy. So for example, Susan's place of work, which was this lovely cafe on Derby Street. We filmed within it. So we were able to just move the furniture around, and then it was just more graphics to make it seem a bit more within the story. So I used my family photos on the wall as posters. I made a bunch of bottle labels to cover up this nice wine rack so that no graphics that weren't ours would be showing. On the actual day that we were filming within the cafe, we got all this food and we dressed it up to make it look good, and then I felt awful putting it in front of the extras and telling them not to eat it because of continuity. We filmed at a great range of locations. We were very, very fortunate in the fact that people of Newcastle really helped us out in terms of providing locations for us to film. So a lot of my role after the big ones that required a lot more art department work to dress was going into the actual locations that we were filming. So places like the hospital, the hotel, cafes, bars, performance spaces, as well as the country club, places like that, and adding extra touches or covering up existing graphics so that no copyright was being broken. So for example, in the hospital, it was adding posters on the walls as well as the nose tubes, things like that, to make it a bit more authentic. Then it was the hospital charts as well, things that they're holding with the clipboard, the scrubs, the name tags, things like that within the space that just made it sell that it was real. The hotel itself, it was again graphics adding to the back of the door just to sell that this was a different hotel, we weren't in the same places all the time. The country club was quite fun because it was already this beautiful, stunning location. So all I had to do really was go in, add the piano and lighting and clean it all up and then climb up a tree to add fairy lights. So I spent my afternoon up a tree stringing up lights. Some of the locations required a bit more dressing than others. For example, we did use a warehouse one day and turn it into a bar. So that was removing a lot of furniture, adding rugs, adding a staging area, microphones, as well as seating and individual drinks for people. Lastly, a lot of Beat was performance-based because it is about music. So I spent a lot of time polishing and cleaning pianos because the actual stages themselves are very, very straightforward in terms of you have your curtains around the edges and then you have your piano on the stage. It was very nice, and a lot of that was about extras. So having bodies in seats to watch the actual performance, which the people of Newcastle really turned out in force to help us out, which was wonderful. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been interesting. So there you have it. There's a little sneak peek in the behind the scenes of what happened on Beat. We hope to see you in cinemas soon.